Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Week 13 lineup builder for DraftKings. We're going to go through the lineups and stacks that I think will be effective in Week 13. But before we dive in, I wanted to review the winner of the Week 12 Millie Maker. And even before we do that, my name is AndrewDFS. This is my YouTube channel. If you like my content, please subscribe. Appreciate it. Leave a comment, drop a like. I'm a co-host on a podcast that drops every Wednesday and Thursday, Huddle Up. You can find us on Spotify. And I'm also an analyst for a website called FF Metrics, run by RC Fisher, who's the best scout in the game. We provide projections every week, commentary for each game, gambling advice, etc. Whatever you want it's there, and for the low price of $9.99 a month. So that'll definitely give you an advantage in your league as RC takes a contrarian view on fantasy football in general. Okay, so now that we're done with intros, let's look at the Week 12 winner. So lineup, the username's handle JMT0813. Congratulations, you won $1 million. How did this guy pull it off? Well, for the 2 weeks in a row, the total score for the Millie Maker is pretty low. Last week it was 215. This one's 220. However, unlike last week, this lineup's a little less chalky. What I find interesting about this one, though, is a Josh Allen play at QB and no wide receivers to bring back with. He could have started Gabe Davis over Calvin Ridley, and that would have had better ROI. But I mean, hey, you did it with no bring back piece and no stack with receivers. So that's awesome. So that was the first piece of the puzzle. Allen becomes the third QB this year to go over 40 points in DraftKings scoring. Definitely capable of it week to week. Kyren Williams making his return in the desert where he dropped 150 yards the game he got injured in week 6. Drops a 40 burger. That is kind of rare for running backs. That's not a very common thing to do. So that was, if you needed Josh Allen and Kyren Williams if you were going to make noise in the Millie Maker generally in any lineup. Next one, Jerome Ford. This was a mediocre performance here. 11.9 points. Definitely better options to play. Najee Harris comes to mind. Cheaper, better. Then we have Nico Collins, who went off 26.4 points. And the surprising thing here, Nico was had more points than Dell. Dell had a bunch of yards called back and everything. So it was a very good, not chalky play. Now, here's the stack that was played, though. In-game stack of Jacksonville, Houston, and what we have there is Calvin Ridley and Nico going head-to-head, and together, they each got over 20 points, so that was a fine stack in total. Then, Rashee Rice, first KC receiver since Juju Smith-Schuster. I said that right, since Juju Smith-Schuster last year to go over 100 yards. Drops 27.7 points in a game where Miko Cardman and Kadarius Toney are out. Props. That was a great play. Pat Freiermuth. Now this one was not chalky and incredible. $2,900, 24 points, and this was the first game without Matt Canada, and Freiermuth was the big beneficiary. A lot of people were thinking Pickens, maybe Warren, but Freiermuth was the big winner in the game after Matt Canada was gone. And that was the first time Pittsburgh went over 400 yards in 59 games, which exactly lines up with when Matt Canada joined the Steelers, which is pretty gnarly. Ramondre Stevenson, 21.7 points. He's been on a tear too. 5,800 for 21.7. You could do worse. He could, he's starting to really come on as an option. And the only thing that sucks is he's probably going to be chalky this week because he's been doing good for 2 weeks in a row. And last but not least, the Carolina defense. And this one was just played as a cheap throwaway, although it's not that cheap at 3,100. So I don't know. Maybe JMT thought that was going to be a bounce back game for Carolina here. Yeah, I don't really understand that play that much. But hey, who am I to judge? This guy won $1 million. Congratulations. Now, here's the craziest part about this whole thing. So winner of the Millie Maker gets $1 million. The second place the second place lineup only gets 100K, and third place gets 40K. Okay, the person that finished third place was number 1 overall before the Jake Elliott field goal. Had Jake Elliott missed, the third place guy would have been first place. He had $1 million in his hands, pouring rain, 59-yard field goal. He's probably going crazy thinking that he's going to get $1 million. And man, just watching that Millie Maker live and seeing that happen and watching the field goal go through, and then just knowing that Josh Allen's going to come up and, take over because the guy that was third didn't have anyone in the game. Oh man, it was brutal. Now, check this out. In second place was a guy that had Josh Allen and Gabe Davis. And if you guys remember the game, that was a failed touchdown connection between the two. Had that touchdown worked and the game ended right there, if it hit, number 2 would have finished number 1. That missed touchdown costed the guy $900 That missed field goal costed the third place guy $960,000. I mean, it's so cool to even make like 40,000 or whatever, or 100,000. Like, awesome. Like, you made that off fantasy football. Like, very cool. But damn, if you're that freaking close to $1 million, that's gnarly, man. That is so cool and so nerve-wracking. I honestly don't know what I would do in that situation. Like, if I just needed that field goal to miss to win $1 million, like, oh man, I don't think I can take that. I would need to turn the TV off. It would be it would be too much for me. Anyways, let's start previewing the Week 13 slate. So we have 6 teams on bye here, which is going to make this slate look a lot shorter, and only 3 dome games. So there's going to be weather's going to be a very key part for Week 13, and we'll walk through each one. So first game we have on the slate are the Sorry, hold on. Give me 1 second. I'm going to edit this scene live. This did not update. I apologize to the viewers. Give me 1 second. There we go. Now we have Week 13 on. Accidentally had Week 12 showing there. I apologize. I'm a one-man operation. Getting better each week, I think, I hope. But yeah, apologies for that blunder. So hopefully to the right of me, we can all see the Week 13 lineup. So first game on the slate, we have the Chargers going into New England in what we're going to get like rain, 8-mile-per-hour winds, Chargers in free fall. New England not really showing signs of life, but Ramondre's looking good. So be careful with Chargers here. I think Keenan Allen's going to play. And generally the Patriots, like, they're not the Pats D of the past. So, like, generally, like, if New England was coming into LA, into the Dome, I'd be okay playing Herbert. But in the rain, in the wind, I don't know that I like that. And to be frank, I can't remember the last time that Herbert had an over-under in the game that he was playing under 40 points. So this just shows you what Vegas is expecting, like a low-scoring, grimy game. So I would play Ramondre in this one. Just be careful, he's going to be chalky. Lions Saints, this one's going to be in Dome, over under 47. Lions 4-point road favorites. And Jared Goff's been throwing a couple interceptions here and there. So I think last week he lost 3 fumbles. The week before he threw 3 picks. So he's had 3 turnovers in 2 straight games. I don't know about this one. I think so. Saints are going to be missing a lot of receivers. But I think that I like Goff here to have his bounce back game against the Saints. I mean, you can do a lot worse here. Again, this is one of 3 games that are in a dome, so you want to take advantage of that. Cardinals Steelers. So we have Steelers who Had 400 yards of offense. Oops, skipped over the Falcons. Guys, I am totally off base today. I am so sorry. I'm going to get my stuff together right now. Falcons, Jets, and what is the lowest over-under this week, and I believe close to the lowest over-under all season at 33.5. Falcons 2-point road favorites. Just Desmond Ridder and road favorite in the same sentence makes me a little nauseous. This is probably the worst quarterback matchup in recent memory. Ridder versus Boyle. Both should be... I think Ridder's a practice squad QB. Boyle's like a flag football QB. No idea what he's doing in the league. Lesser of two evils here. I would probably side with Ridder on this one, even though like that Jets D and even Atlanta, like their D sometimes comes and shows up, and especially when they have a juicy matchup against Boyle, like I could see them showing up here. So it's tough. I would ground all passing players here, like QBs, receivers, tight ends, but I would consider both running backs, Breece Hall or Bijan. Bijan's getting a lot more carries now. He's being used in the run game and in the pass game. And I think that's why Atlanta's looking better, because they're giving Bijan more carries. So I like that. I don't know how much I would really invest into him. Like if you're submitting 150 lineups, you definitely want some Bijan in there. And on the flip side, like Breece Hall is dynamic. You can't really ignore him. You need to have him in a couple of your lineups. He's startable in this, but I don't know that I'm excited for either, especially in this low-scoring game. Now Cardinals and Steelers. And what we're having is a James Conner revenge game. I know that's a weird storyline, but this is the second game that Pittsburgh will play without Matt Canada. They dropped 400 in the first one, 400 yards, and that was the first time again in 59 games that happened. That's freaking crazy. If this game had good weather, I would be more inclined to like go with a crazy pick-in stack and just throw up a prayer that Pickett was being held back by the OC, because the guy looked good against Cincy. He threw 278 yards. He was on time, delivering, accurate, throwing strikes. Like I liked what I saw out of Pickett last week. And Cardinals like are giving up the most points to QBs, receivers. So you want to target them. I just don't know if this is in the weather. I'm a little nervous about it though. So I would play Steelers offense more than I would play with Cardinals, especially their offense feels like it's faltering. Kyler doesn't exactly look like the Kyler we remember. So yeah. Panthers, Buccaneers. So this is going to be the first game that Carolina plays without Frank Reich. Frank Reich is tied for the second shortest head coaching tenure at 11 games. I think the last time someone got fired before that was 8 games. Pete McCauley back in like the 60s or 70s. So, I mean, shortest of recent memory. Is this going to be a dead cat bounce game? Literally like Panthers, dead cat. But seriously, like, could this be a game where the Panthers come and show signs of life? I don't think so, because I don't think their problem was the head coach. I think it's with Bryce Young, and we'll see what happens. But Tampa can get after you if you have a bad offensive line, as we've seen them do against like someone like Will Levis. Like that's not an easy play. Tampa's not an easy place to play, even though the weather's going to be okay. But the crowd, their D-line, bad offensive line on the road. Generally, my combo for like a defense is good D-line, bad O-line, rookie QB. You want that defense. That defense has a chance of going for 20. And I love Rachaad White in that game. Over under 36.5, and Bucks are 3.5 point favorites. Interesting. Okay. Colts going into Indianapolis. Colts are -1, so they are 1 point favorites on the road. Don't love that for them, because Titans as a home dog usually smash. 42.5 is the over under, kind of low. Yeah, you could try to go Will Levis here. That's not totally crazy as a cheap play. And other people that I like, Jonathan Taylor's out. So Zach Moss, super cheap. You kind of have to play him, honestly. Even though he's, again, that's going to be a very chalky play too. But At that point, at that volume, 4,600, you can't pass that up. That's chalk that you kind of have to bite here. Dolphins Commanders. So we have Miami coming in as 10-point road favorites, over under 49.5. We have rain, 7-mile-per-hour winds. And yeah, I don't know how much I love this for Miami. I think this could be a bounce back spot for Commanders. Not that they'll win, but I think they'll cover it and keep it close. Washington's secondary can be had, which if you want to go to a Tyreek, like I can see it, but in that kind of weather on the road, it's a little scary. I'm not gonna lie. And I didn't mention this, but circling back, Tennessee versus Indy, the one thing that's a little scary is 12-mile-per-hour winds. Will Levis has a pretty big arm, so I think he'll be okay, but Gardner Minshew could, he might suffer more. And then the other weather we didn't talk about was the Atlanta Jets game. So you have two really bad quarterbacks and rain with 8-mile-per-hour winds. So, I mean, slight winds. When it's double-digit winds, that's when I start getting concerned. 15-mile-per-hour will definitely affect, like, most quarterbacks, like, not named Josh Allen. But once you start inching towards the 20s, that's when you get real. That 20-mile-per-hour winds, everybody gets affected. 15, Josh Allen, like cannon arms, 15 to 20 are okay, but not great. 10 to 15, cannon arms are okay. And then under 10, it just depends. Like if you have someone like Ritter, Ritter struggles in a dome, so the weather's not gonna really the weather's just gonna make things worse. Denver, Houston. So Broncos, 3-point road dogs going into Houston. 47 is the over-under. That's a high over-under. CJ Stroud stack, not terrible here. Broncos are riding a high. Houston's coming off a loss, so this is a bounce back spot for Stroud. Tank Dell is an option here. Javonte Williams. Broncos will try to establish the run. I love all those options. San Francisco, Philly. This is probably the most debated game of the slate, with San Francisco going from a 1-point dog to a 3-point road favorite. That usually doesn't end well. When you go from a dog to a favorite in the same week, not good. Over under there, 48. Weather will have slight chance of rain. Slight because this game's later in the day. It's going to be 4:30 Eastern time, and there's going to be rain for sure early in their day, but it might slow down. Here's what I think of this game. I think Philly wins this, and I think they're going to win by more than I think they're going to win by a touchdown flat. There's too much chatter coming from the 49ers. Between Debo talking crap, between 49ers 49ers being 3-point favorites, it's kind of disrespectful to Philly, in my opinion. And I know that I have this weird feeling those dog masks are coming out for sure from 2017. They're probably getting the dust off them, brushing the dust off those masks, and they're going to wear that. But this one's really, Philly's been in some freaking barn burners, man. Between the Philly game, between Buffalo, and now they get 49ers, and next week they get Dallas. Man, the schedule makers did no freaking favors for this Philadelphia team. What the heck is going on with these guys? This has to be the toughest 4-game stretch ever, and they're 2-0 in this stretch. Incredible. They're doing everything right. Now people are pointing to, the Eagles defense played 90 snaps. 49ers had more rest, right? Because I think they're coming off a Thanksgiving game. So they'll have 10 days of rest. Here's the thing. The Eagles, in that weather, that stadium, Brock Purdy's not that great on the road, even though the Eagles defense could be had. He definitely is a better home quarterback than road quarterback, which I know isn't saying much. Everyone's like that, but you gotta, I don't know that Eagles should be home underdogs. I think it's the first time where a 10-1 team is a home underdog. This is incredible to me, and the amount of professional money coming in on San Francisco is crazy too. This just seems like an easy, from a betting perspective, if I'm just taking +3, it seems like an easy pick to me. And maybe that's just me being a novice bet. I mean, I'm not gambling millions of dollars every week, but damn, that doesn't seem right. Rams, Browns. So Rams 4-point home favorites, and the spread is the total over unders 40.5, so it's low. We have Joe Flacco starting for the Browns. I don't know that that's gonna really like light them up or anything, or like ignite them. I mean, remember guys, like Flacco hasn't really been playing much over the past couple of years. He's had some spot starts, but to think that like he can just come in, go inside Rams with like little practice or whatever, yeah. And on the flip side, like for the Rams, like I don't know that Kyron, Puka, and Cup are going to be able to take advantage of this Browns defense. If I had to pick one, I'd go Kyron because the Browns secondary is the best in the NFL. You don't want to screw with them. So those are my quick takes as we preview the slate. So now let's go into DraftKings and actually figure out stacks and QB options and prices. So I like going in blocks. I like to start with like 7,000 and up, like the expensive QBs, and then we'll work our way down. So of the guys that are expensive, 7,000 and up, Hurts is playable. I know we're going up against the team that gives up the third least points to QBs, but he's definitely playable in this one. Hurts is matchup proof. Stroud, I like him too. I think he's fine. So that one I'd accept. Those two I'd accept. If and I'll give you guys the one that I would play in this one. Just give me a second. Herbert, I wouldn't touch. Tua is playable too. And Murray, I would not touch. Okay, so we have three guys in the expensive range. Hurts, Stroud, Tua. Had to pick one, I'm going Hurts. I'm going Hurts because Philly is this is gonna be a high-scoring game, I think. Like, maybe not, actually, I mean, I think it'll hit the over-under. I don't want to say, like, this is gonna be like 35-30. I don't want to go that far, but I like Hurts in this one. You have the upside on the ground. You have the upside through the air. A Hurts AJ Brown stack, great. In second, I would go Tua and Tyreek. You can't go wrong there. The only problem is it's going to be very expensive. Like if you look at, and I guess Hurts and AJ Brown would too. So look at 8,200, 7,900. When we flip to the receivers, you see that Tyreek's 9,600. And AJ Brown's 8,800. So it actually comes out to almost the same thing. So I like it. I mean, Washington's giving up a lot of points. I just don't know that we're going to see fireworks in that game. That's why I'm a little nervous. But the one that's in a dome is Stroud and Dell. But Denver D's been coming on as of late. So I don't know. That one's tough too. So Hurts would be my number one choice. Then Tua, then Stroud in the expensive tier. And obviously, I wouldn't play Murray or Herbert. So now let's go in the mid-range. So mid-range will go from Goff to, I guess you can call it card mid-range, whatever. Goff I would play here. Goff's had games where he's been off the past couple of weeks. I think he's playable. Amon-Ra St. Brown stack. That'll be cheaper than a Tua Tyreek stack, and you get a dome environment. So Goff looking like he needs something to prove. You want that. You want to bet on people that are sort of like not doing too hot in DFS. Howell pass Miami D is really good. I wouldn't want anything to do with that. Purdy, I know I talked about how he's not that great on the road, but he should put up points here, and he didn't have the best game against Seattle. This is a big game for Brock Purdy. If he can't get this done, not only are they going to lose home field advantage most likely, but he's going to have that label, oh, he can't get it done on the road. It's not that loud yet, but if they lose this one, the noise will get louder. Stafford, I'm going to pass. That Cleveland D's too ferocious. Russell Wilson. This one's interesting. Yeah, I could see that. I think Wilson's a good play, like a Wilson Sutton stack. I don't mind that, and then you can play Nico as a bring back piece. Like that's fine too. Or sorry, Tank as a bring back piece in that. It's not terrible. It's in a dome. And then Derek Carr, though I would have liked this if we knew like Olave or one of the Saints receivers were playing, but like it's kind of tough to do when you want A.T. Perry as your number one receiver. We like A.T. Perry, but it's not like he still has a lot of time before he can get up to speed and become like a number one option in a week under short notice. So this is kind of rough. Scrolling down the cheap guys, so cheap guys. Baker Mayfield. I like in this. Why? He's going up against his former team. This guy plays with a chip on his shoulder. So a sneaky stack, in my opinion, sneaky cheap would be Mayfield, Mike Evans going up against Baker's old team. Oh, for sure, this guy's gonna like. He's a very emotional guy. He's for sure gonna like lay it all out there for Tampa. So I like that a lot. Minshew, pass. Levis, I could see. I'm not excited about. Pickett, I could see too. Out of the cheap guys here, I would probably go Mayfield first, then Pickett second if you wanted to go cheap. I would avoid Ritter. I'd avoid Bryce Young. I'd avoid everyone down here. Bailey Zappi. Like, just this gets very nasty. Tim Boyle, you pay me not to start Tim Boyle. Like, Tim Boyle should be like zero. Honestly, his salary should be $0. Like you or it should be negative. Like, I should get something back for starting Tim Boyle. And that is all she wrote. Okay, running back time. Running backs. Who do we like as running backs? CMC going up against the number one run D. He's still gonna get his. But is he going to go for 36? I don't know. And he, like, just exploded on Seattle. I think we want to hold off here. Eckler, we don't want to touch. Not, like, he hasn't looked right. They're on the road. Bad weather. Like, this is nasty. Pass. Kamara, out of the expensive guys I like. And the only reason why is because the Saints are missing a lot of people. So they got to throw to someone. They got to involve Kamara more, and Jamal Williams, I think, came up like wobbly in that last game. Like, this could be a really good sneaky play. Kamara definitely has the ability to go off, and he's been very quiet lately. So people are going to be scared of Detroit's like number 2 defensive ranking, and they're very good against the run. I don't want to speak to it, but just look at like how like he's had pretty underwhelming performances. So 3 straight weeks where he's had less than 20 points. But before that, like, he was really going on a tear, like 27, 29. Look at all those like targets in the receiving game. Like, he had a 14 target game. He had 2 14 target games, but he hasn't been utilized as much because one, you have Taysom Hill going nuts, and then you have like Olave and Rashid Shaheed, whatever, like, and Jamal Williams cutting into his carries. So yeah, that's why Kamara's been quiet. I'm not afraid of starting him this game. If you wanted to do Goff, St. Brown, and then Kamara as a bringback piece, I mean, you can do a lot worse than that, I promise you. Or even Kamara and Amon-Ra as like an in-game stack. Like, that might work. Mostert, pass because A-Chain's coming back. Kyren, I could see it. I'm not excited about it, but I can see it. So, out of my 7,000 and up, and let's include A-Chain in this too. I gamble on A-Chain, but I'm not excited about that either. So out of the expensive guys, 6,900 and up, I would go Kamara first, then probably then I'd go A-Chain next, then Kyren, and then everybody else I wouldn't touch. Okay, now let's look at the next crop. So these are the mid plays. Derrick Henry, Indy D can be had on the ground. So I think he's an okay play. Not excited. Jahmyr Gibbs, yeah, I'd play that. I'd play that too. I think that's a fine start. Bijan's a good start too. Swift, I'd be a little careful of. I think that the way you beat San Francisco is through the air, not through the ground. Montgomery, I like too. It's just hard because Gibbs and Montgomery, they neither of them can really go for like 40 because they hold each other back without injury. So it's kind of tough. Like it's like you'll get it once a week, but it's like I mean you'll probably get it once every like 6 weeks or 7 weeks, but it's hard to like get excited about it. I used to use that argument for DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and JSN cutting into each other's targets, but hey man, Metcalf like went nuts on the Cowboys. Like it's not impossible. Any of these guys can explode, but Saints run D's pretty good. They're missing a few pieces, so it's just not exciting for me. Brees Hall, I'd play too if he's okay. Rashad White is the one I'm excited about. Carolina's one of the worst run Ds. Tampa should control the game, and even if they don't, Rashad White has a lot of PPR upside, so like him. Brian Robinson, he's okay. I probably wouldn't just given the game script, but he's been doing okay. Ramondre Stevenson, yes, sign me up for that. I think this is going to be a game where Ramondre gets a lot of carries. I think Zeke's questionable too, which is good. I don't. We'll scroll down and try to find him on the list as well to see if he's still questionable. So Stevenson can be in line for a pretty big workload here. And between the 6,000 in the mid range, the guys that I like, number 1 Rashad White, number 2 Ramondre. And everyone else that I said was playable, like Bijan, Gibbs, Montgomery, they're all pretty close to each other. If I had to go with a third, I'd go Bijan because he's starting to get really used here. You don't pass on the Jets, and Atlanta doesn't like to pass. You beat the Jets on the ground. Perfect. That's Atlanta's game. Like, it kind of like matches up here. So he's been getting his touches, guys. So look at that. In Arizona, 22. Arthur Smith started feeling the heat from the media, whatever. Look at that. 2 straight games, 90 yards. He's had 3 touchdowns past 2 games. He's being targeted more. He's being used in the passing game. And frankly, Atlanta's doing better because of it. So we'll see. We'll see if they can win on the road as favorites. That would be a big step for them. All right. Under 6,000. So this is like getting into our cheap range. Singletary, even though Denver is the worst run D, it's kind of scary because they don't really run a lot. But if I had to choose between Singletary and Pierce, who's at the bottom of the screen, I would go Singletary because he has PPR upside. So I think he's an okay start. James Conner, even though it's a revenge game for him, I think the game script's going to get away from him. Connor just feels like he's just gonna get shut down at some point in this season. Like he's gonna have a little injury and they're gonna be like, all right, you're done. Let's shelf you. So I like Javonte here, 5,700. That's a great price for him. He can be used in a stack. You can go like Tank, Stroud, Javonte, or you can even play Javonte in a Russell stack. So a lot of upside with that. Don't in a dome. Like Javonte's been doing pretty damn good. He drew hard defense last week, so don't look at his don't read too much into last week and actually the week before because Minnesota and Cleveland are 2 of the top run Ds in the league. But you look before that and the guy's getting 15 carries, 27 carries, 11 carries, 21 carries. This was I feel like this Minnesota game was an anomaly. He's being targeted a lot more in the passing game too. I like him. I like him in this spot. I don't know, if he would be my choice out of the mids. We'll come to that soon. Ford, I can see here. I think Ford can have a decent game on the run. Arizona, Pittsburgh. Arizona also struggles against the run. So, Jalen Warren, maybe this is his week. It seems like Warren and Harris alternate weeks, so this could be Warren's week. Hubbard, he's getting usage, guys. Like, Tampa Bay's hard, but he does get a lot of, check down passes or whatever. Look, he had 5 catches last game, and I think with Deuce Staley gone, maybe they push Chuba more than Sanders. I think he can have, a 20-carry game. So, not all that crazy here if I want to play him. I definitely see the logic in it. Where were we at? We were at Hubbard. So, okay, Najee and Warren are both definitely playable. It's just a crapshoot on who's going to get the TD. I mean, Warren fumbled last game, so maybe he's punished. I don't know, but Najee's been looking okay past couple weeks, but I think that when you look at his game logs, like you're gonna just see him alternate. So, or maybe like that was just an anomaly right here. He was 1 yard away from close to a 19 point game, right? Because that would have been a 3 point bonus for him. So he was right there. He's had at least he's gonna get his touches for sure. He wasn't used in the pass game at all last week. That's more Warren's. That's more up Warren's alley. But Warren, I feel like could go easily for like he's more likely to go for like 25 than Najee, but Najee can like bring you like a solid 15 probably. So look at that. 2 weeks in a row, 26.5, 22, 14. Like Warren's good too. Even though he had his fumble here, he still got touches and he's being used in the passing game. So he has the more PPR upside. And then Damian Pierce, I wouldn't touch. He's just not being used enough. Kelly, I wouldn't touch. P. Ryan, no. Hunt, no. And Zach Moss, I think, is going to be my last one. So in this like cheap range. So Moss, you can't ignore it, guys. He's going to get volume. And I know that Tennessee run D isn't exactly soft, but in this game, you can't give up volume at 4,600. Like it's just too freaking cheap, and the whole pool is gonna play him. But look at this, like he's gonna have 10 points, and like there's a lot of high salary players that I rather have, and using 4,600, the salary that you can save from it. Yeah, I mean, like look between him, like the next cheapest guy that I would maybe get excited about, Warren. That's $800. That's a lot of freaking DraftKings dollars there. So out of all the cheap guys, the one that I'm most excited about, and this is just pure from usage base, not that I think that Moss is gonna drop 40, even though like he's with the backfield to himself, that's certainly possible. I would go Moss one. Number two, I would go. I'm gonna go Warren. I'm gonna double down on Warren because I think that against Arizona, like just seeing the way Kyron was tearing him up, and Warren's similar to Kyron, that the new Pittsburgh OC is gonna think like, okay, let's try to attack him this way. Let's use like a shifty pass catching running back, whatever.